Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this. No, I'm just kidding. No, we are not making that today. That would take hours, and I just clearly don't have the time. So instead we're going to be making this. So let's get into it. So to start off, we're going to be barbarian and delete the default cube because in this we don't need it. Now we're going to go to edit under preferences, add-ons, and look for landscape, add mesh, and make sure that's enabled because that's what we're going to be using for a quick easy landscape. And when you go to mesh, you'll see I have more because I have different add-ons on, but at the bottom you should see landscape, and you can click that and you get this landscape. It's kind of tiny, but I'm just not going to resize it just for purposes. And you can see you can change the noise type. I'm just gonna mess around with that a little bit so you get this kind of like mountain look. And if you're not familiar with these settings, I would recommend messing around with them to see what you get, but other than that I wouldn't. So now we got this shape. You can go upside down, flip it around if you wanted to for softer edges, and you can see we have this. We can separate the tabs and we have our landscape. And I'm going to open the shader editor and use that default material, and I'm just going to name it rock. So we're already just going to get started on the material. It's fairly simple. So what we're going to do is duplicate the principled BSDF, move that up, add a mix shader so you can mix the two, and you can plug those two in. And now what you're going to want to do is mess with those colors to get more of a rock color. Depending on what you're doing, you might want to change it around a little bit, make it darker, brighter, and what I'm just going to do is I'm going to copy the hex, place it in the other principled BSDF, just to make sure I have kind of the same color, make it a bit darker. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a color ramp. And so that's going to control the factor, so how much of each principled BSDF. I'm going to add a Musgrave texture and connect that to the factor. So now we get this kind of weird looking thing. And you can mess around with these settings. I'm just going to change some basic things. You can see that you change the scale, the dimensions, whatever. You get kind of different things. So you're going to want to mess around with that to get kind of what you like. That looks okay. I mean, maybe mess around with it for a bit longer so I can get what I want. So now that I've got kind of what I want, I'm going to duplicate that color ramp, plug the height into the factor, and I'm going to add a displacement, and I'm going to connect that to the height and then to the displacement on the surface, what you're going to see. So sorry, I'm messing around with that. And you can just mess around, you get that kind of shape. And I'm going to mess around with that a little bit to get what I want. So in the end, what I ended up doing is just getting rid of that color ramp just so I can get that all around kind of texture and change some displacement settings. And that was it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and add in an HDRI. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get one of those. But I'm just going to open one of mine, and I'm just opening it. I'll leave a link to HDRI Haven where I got mine, and I just really like this one. And so now when you go into rendered view, you can see you have that, and you have realistic lighting, and so now you have that, but it's in Eevee, and it's not too great right now, and you kind of don't get those shadows that you want. So if you are going to use Eevee, I would recommend turning ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space refractions, and turning those things up. But this scene is also very light on the on your computer. It used about like 50 megabytes of RAM, and it didn't take that long to render even on cycles so it's not going to be that bad. I'm just lining it up there, the camera, but I'm also just going to change it to cycles just so I can get more realistic lighting. This might take a bit to render the lighting. I'm going to change it to GPU, and just so you know, HDRIs do take longer times to render, but they are more realistic. So if you just want to get shorter render times, it won't improve it that much, but if you do, you can just use a regular sun lamp. So now I'm going to go and open up the shader editor again, and I'm going to go to world settings up there, and this is where you can mess around with the brightness. So for me, this is a little bright right now. So you can go all the way down to like 0 and let it load, and you can see you get no lighting at all. But as you turn it back up, you'll get more lighting. Now this background isn't actually going to appear in my render, so for me it doesn't really matter what I put it at. You can use your HDRI as your background, but I'm not. So now you're going to need to enable another add-on. It's called images as plane, so when you import an image, it's automatically going to be on a plane, and that's just a lot easier for just so you don't have to add those images in and have to make a texture for it. So I'm good. When under image, you're gonna have a new thing, and I'm just gonna put another one in, and it might take a little bit. There it is, and it's a sky texture just because, well, I want a sky in the back. And I'm gonna go just into shader editor, or shader, I don't know what it's called exactly, but I'm gonna align that with the camera, just so you can get a good kind of like area. Grab that. I'm gonna go camera view and grab that again to kind of like center it and just scale it up. So you want to kind of keep it as small as you can, and that looks about good. So now I'm gonna go into rendered view, and you can see that's what it looks like right now. So now I have kind of what I want for this picture, for this image, just render, and you might want to space out your background farther back so you don't get any of those shadows, because you don't want those shadows, because then, oh well, you'll see that people will see that those are that's just an image and not an actual like HDRI. So now what I'm going to talk about is denoising. Denoising is very important, and in your render you have three options: NLM, optics, and open image denoiser. You hover over them, you pretty much get the gist of it, and they're all pretty good. NLM I find is a lot smoother, more refined than the others, but it does mess up your lighting, how it affects it, and that's you can use NLM for any type of computer. Optics, obviously, it is an NVIDIA thing, so you can only use it if you have a NVIDIA graphics card, but it does retain the lighting better, but it's not as refined. The last one is open image denoiser, and that one's an Intel one. I'm 90% sure it's just an Intel one, and it runs on the CPU, which can help your GPU if you would like that. But I don't have an AMD Ryzen CPU, and you also have the viewport. It kind of looks weird at first, but as it continues to render, it'll seem out better, but I just don't like using it because it kind of looks weird. So now I'm just going to render these images a couple of times. You can see that the loading time for the HDRIs is very high, and it just varies on what kind of HDR you have, and there are different ones. There's some up to 8K, which I'm pretty sure is the one I'm using is at. There are 4K, 1K. It all just depends on how your lighting wants to look, how you want your lighting to look. So that was optics. It looked pretty good, that one render, and now this is NLM, and you can see it looks more refined, but in this particular example, it's not that hard to it's harder to see a difference than it would be on a more advanced, more stressful render. But you can see you do retain more detail if the lighting is affected. You can see that middle cloud looks a little bit more transparent, at least in my opinion. Or if you just want pure perfect lighting, you can just increase those samples, and you can get a lot better results with that. And it just takes a lot longer, and I'm saying and a lot, but it does depend on what you like and what you're trying to go for. But because this is more of a flat image, I wouldn't really worry too much about it because it's not trying to process too much. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.